Reputations in Hollywood are an interesting thing. Sometimes you can date a 17-year-old and go on to still make lots of money, be successful, and also be extremely unfunny all at the same time. Or you can maybe be a cannibal/sex criminal and not go to jail because you have a ton of family money that came from oil deals. And other times you can be 24, romance a 14-year-old, have dozens of movies made about you, and still be remembered as a king. You can't really throw a pebble in Hollywood without hitting someone with a fucked up reputation, but I want to talk about a different kind of reputation. One that isn't about horrible things, but what about horrible and/or amazing twists? M. Night Shyamalan, whether he meant to or not, is kinda known for having twists in his movies, and how big or insane said twists might be. Not everyone likes these, and some of them I can understand, because let's be honest, they're pretty bad. So over the month of December, I decided to watch every single M. Night Shyamalan movie and really see just how good or bad these twists are. This was a pretty insane, but also fun venture. And to keep this simple, I've decided to just focus on the twists, how they impact the movie, and if they work within the established universe. But if you'd like a full review on any of these movies, I take requests in the comments. Now keep in mind, everyone has their own opinions, and you like what you like. So please remember that these are just my opinions on these twists and what I think about them. So with that, let's get into it.
What? No.
Where do we start with this one? It's bad. Really bad. And probably one of the dumbest twists in movie history, even if it is trying to have a good message and it thinks it's being clever. The reveal that plants are making humans kill themselves because plants are tired of humans destroying the planet, that could be interesting. Unfortunately, it's not, because Mark Wahlberg talking to a plastic plant and the overall silliness of how the story unfolds does not help its case at all. Halfway in, our high school science teacher, Elliot, played by Mark Wahlberg, discovers it's plants and grass releasing a neurotoxin into the air that's causing the mass suicides, and it's not terrorists like the world believes. The shock value from some of the deaths is pretty intense. I especially remember the needle in the neck and the infamous lawnmower scene. But even with these shock value deaths, the movie doesn't keep the tone when it goes from a skin-crawling death scene to a scene of a guy staring at a rip in the fabric of his car. Or worse, talking to a plastic plant. Lots of movies make the unseeable threat actually feel threatening, like the movie It Follows. But in The Happening, when we learn it's plants, the threat becomes the air itself. Air isn't really the best threat. Air can get in a lot of places, but the movie makes it seem like it's picky on when and where it attacks. If this is something plants could theoretically do, please let me know in the comments. But for now, it's a dumb twist that's poorly executed on every level. I think an important element to any movie about aliens invading Earth is making sure the aliens don't come across as extremely stupid by the time the story is over. And maybe I'm in the minority here, but I think the aliens in Signs are kinda dumb. They plan out this invasion, pop up on old recordings, make crop circles, and terrorize the shit out of this house. Then we find out that their weakness, on a planet made up of 71% water, is in fact water. Now maybe it could be holy water because the water that does fall on the alien was technically blessed, but I don't really buy that. Kinda hard to take these aliens seriously when they're stupid enough to do this. It's even weirder than the tinfoil hat moment that we get in this movie. I could just never get into Signs, because though it has some pretty good build and release moments, overall the story never really did it for me. And once it's shown that a cup of water almost melts the aliens like the Wicked Witch of the West, it falls apart completely for me. I mean, there is a reason why Scary Movie parried the aliens in Signs. They're dumb and a complete disappointment. Now I would give this twist some bonus points for it actually being aliens in the end, because there was a part of me the first time I watched this that thought it would actually be some crazy farmer that's doing the crop circles. Signs also highlights a big problem with a lot of Shyamalan's films that I wanted to bring up. For me, a main reason a lot of his twists and movies as a whole fall pretty flat is because his dialogue tends to be more goofy and unnatural at all the worst moments. The aliens are silly, and the way the humans react to them and talk about them makes them feel like cartoon characters more than horror creatures. I also really appreciate an alien invasion movie that doesn't rely on massive amounts of action and explosions to keep the audience entertained. The aliens and signs just seem more interested in scaring and being a looming presence to humans than doing anything else. Which I guess means the good news is no probing? I was really excited for Trap when I went to see it in theaters. The premise of a serial killer being trapped at a pop concert and has to find a way to keep his cool and escape sounded incredible. Too bad it's a massive letdown that does not capitalize on this premise nearly enough. Technically, Trap has two twists. One that is halfway through when they leave the concert and it becomes a very generic serial killer who has a hostage while also still needing to play it cool. And two, it was his wife who tipped off the police and figured out that he was the serial killer known as the Butcher. By the time the wife reveals this to Mr. Trap, the movie has already completely lost my engagement, and the police are already surrounding his house about to arrest him. Also throughout Trap, there is this profiler who is helping the police track him down, and they keep showing her and then having flashbacks to Mr. Trap's mom. But this is not explored, explained, or even remotely touched upon outside the confusing comparison that doesn't make any sense. Plus, this is another movie that heavily relies on everyone around the main character being dumb and oblivious. Half the things he does at the concert are only successful because the people that are supposed to be keeping an eye on the areas he's in, or the ones that are supposed to be keeping a secret, just blurt it out to him or blindly trust him for no reason. All of Mr. Trap's success is because this one guy selling t-shirts tells him that the whole thing is a trap in the first place. First off, why would they tell everyone, down to the guy who sells t-shirts at one of the many counters that sells t-shirts, about this whole thing being a trap? That just feels like a really easy way to have a breach of secrecy. Case in point, this fucking guy. And two, he doesn't really do anything that impressive when he's actually at the concert anyways. Besides him sneaking around to see that all of his exits are blocked, they should have kept it at the concert the entire time, because once they leave, the entire thing starts to drag. This is mainly due to the fact that the hostage of choice is this pop star who is basically the equivalent to Taylor Swift. And the pop star knows that he's the serial killer. So then when they go back to his house, it just doesn't really work, because she just takes his phone and runs into the bathroom to try to get help. And the interactions between him and her in front of the entire family are very off-putting. Actually, come to think of it, the third act in general gave me a weird embarrassment feeling more than anything else, which is very strange. Superheroes are real, and they're incredibly boring. I think that summarizes this movie and the twist accurately. But honestly, there just isn't that much to say about this one. It's an interesting take on the genre that was just starting to find its footing in the early 2000s with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. And the ultimate twist is that Samuel L. Jackson was the mastermind behind everything that brought him together with Bruce Willis. But this twist kinda ties in with the next two on the list. I'm putting these two together because the twist in Split is that he also has superpowers in the same universe as Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson. In Glass, the reveal is that there is a secret organization that has been keeping the existence of these above-average humans a secret. I like this twist because I didn't really see that coming, and it adds a cool element to the world building that Unbreakable started all the way back when. It's a shame that Glass doesn't capitalize on any of these premises and show us any of the superheroes being super or any of the supervillains being more villains. It's actually just a long 3 people in therapy being told that they don't have superpowers, and then at the end of the day, they did have superpowers, and one of them drowns in a puddle, like a literal puddle. To summarize these superpowers, one is super smart but has glass bones, one guy is a little stronger than your average strong guy, and the other has a bunch of personalities, and one of them lets him run like a dog and eat people and also be a little strong. I wouldn't exactly call that super or exciting, which lets this trilogy fall extremely flat by the end. On its own, Split is a really good movie that showcases James McAvoy's acting talents and also gives us a little Anya Taylor-Joy a little early in her career. Unbreakable isn't great, but I think it has a place in the genre of being one of the first to try something different with it. But together, this universe is boring, even if there is a secret organization full of secrets, which is cool, but does not subtract from this movie being subpar. Allow me to rip this band-aid off right now. The Sixth Sense twists isn't as impressive as everyone thinks. Now just hear me out before you start typing. Initially, the twist is super impressive, and if you were lucky enough to watch the movie before it was ruined by everyone on the internet because they never shut up about it, it works pretty well, until you think about it longer than 2 seconds. Now, if you're one of the lucky ones who has never seen this movie and you still don't know what the twist is, go do yourself a favor and watch it, then come back and I'll tell you why it's stupid. So here's the twist. He's dead the whole time. Okay, so then how did he make an appointment to see a child as a psychiatrist? Also, it said his wife doesn't talk to him, and the movie tries to explain it a little bit, but then you have to ask yourself, his wife hasn't talked to him since he died. That means for the entire 24 hours that the day has, this woman does not acknowledge him, speak to him, or even look in his direction on purpose, and he's totally cool with that? What about when he goes to the store for food? Or to a restaurant down the street in order to eat? Does he eat? When he moves chairs and interacts with things, does that mean people only see the item moving? Do you see where I'm going with this? I understand you're not supposed to think about it too hard, but a twist for shock value alone that doesn't fit within the story or world just doesn't work. And yes, the twist is shocking, which is the only reason I put it as high as I did, but overall, it adds too many questions to the movie as a whole. For me, in order for a twist to truly land, it has to make sense within the world. And like the twist previously on this list, this one too just doesn't elevate the world or the story enough for me to think it's that good. Which I know might be blasphemous for me to say, but hey, it's my opinion, and this is my list, so I don't really care. The Visit is pretty cool, even if the twist is kinda easy to spot. As the movie works through the story beats, we see the grandkids slowly learn that the people who call themselves their papa and gran aren't who they say they are. Turns out they escaped a mental asylum, killed their grandparents, and took their place. I like this twist, because not only does it work within the world, but it's also pretty believable. I like it because even though it's easy to call, the story is compelling enough and engaging enough that I'm not bothered by it. I probably have the least to say about this one, because it's a pretty straightforward story with a pretty straightforward twist. The Visit also gets overlooked a lot when people talk about Shyamalan's work, as to me, it's one of his stronger movies because it doesn't rely on the crazy and absurd. I get it's not for everyone, but after things like Lady in the Water, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and After Earth, I think this was his return to form. Also, those 3 movies are not going to be on this list because technically none of them really have a twist in them, and because of that, I'm not including them. But if you want me to... The twist in these 3 movies is that Shyamalan somehow got somebody to give him money to make these 3 movies.
Got him!
Commonly referred to as The Beach That Makes You Old, this is probably my second favorite Shyamalan film overall. I like the grounded yet mystical approach to this piece of land that ages you rapidly and you pass out if you try to escape. Now you might be commenting or saying, but the twist is revealed in the trailer, so it doesn't count. And you'd be correct, but I am talking about the twist at the very end. I personally thought the inclusion of an evil pharmaceutical company was perfect. Luring people with different ailments in under the pretext of a vacation, then secretly giving them pills for their ailment, sending them to a beach that rapidly ages them, and using that to study the results of the drugs. That's awesome. And maybe it's because recently at the time of writing this video, healthcare companies are in the news, and not for the reasons they want to be. I fully believe that an evil Elon Bezos Zuckerberg type would get their grubby little hands on a beach like this and 100% use it in an evil way.
Oh, I like money.
Plus, even if you know that the beach makes you old, I think Shyamalan did a good job at using that premise to keep you entertained until the very end. Weird that one of the villains was played by Shyamalan himself at the end. Is he trying to tell us something? Knock at the Cabin has a twist that honestly I did not see coming, and this, among other reasons, is why it's my favorite Shyamalan movie. The twist at the end of Knock at the Cabin is that our four strangers who visit our unfortunate couple and their kid were in fact telling the truth. I didn't think this would be the route that Shyamalan would go in this story, because it almost feels too obvious and completely stupid at the same time. Throughout the story, the four visitors, representing the four horsemen of the apocalypse, get killed off while trying to convince our victims to make a sacrifice. And of course, no one in real life would believe that killing their partner or child would really save the world from destruction. The movie also does a really good job at balancing the reasons to believe the strangers are right and the reasons to believe that they're crazy. After the first guy is killed, a tsunami on the TV kills thousands, convincing to a point, but one of the characters quickly waves it off as being pre-recorded. This continues, and by the time you start to think that they're telling the truth, planes are falling from the sky and a virus is killing millions. And it turns out it was all true, and they see the same news feeds that they were watching in the cabin at a local diner after it's all said and done. Granted, this is based off a book that Shyamalan changed the ending to, adding his own twist. And within the context of the story, it still works, even if it is different than the original. I just really enjoy this movie, and though it's not perfect by any stretch, it has a twist I can enjoy, characters that are fun, and it just hits the spot. I mean, it has to be The Village, right? If I'm ranking these off the twist, then no other Shyamalan movie has the balls to be so stupid, so funny, and brilliant all at the same time. I was fortunate enough to experience this without the twist being ruined, and the very first time you see it, it's kind of incredible. What are the chances that this village hidden in the woods that appears to be in the past is actually in the present, and these monsters that everyone thought were some kind of horrible creatures are just Scooby-Doo villains in masks? The pure shock when our final girl hops over the fence and it's modern day 2004? Mind blown. But let's not confuse the twist being insane for the movie being good. The movie is still really bad, and the twist can either make it better or worse for you depending on how you feel about the rest of the plot. The Village is not scary. The acting is average, despite having a pretty stacked cast. And besides the twist, nothing about this movie is memorable at all. If you've seen The Village, without looking anything up, off your memory alone, comment something about this movie that you remember. I also think the whole history professor used a family fortune to create the secret village, pay off the government for a no-fly zone, and somehow kept it a secret for over 20 years. He's super lucky this is before YouTube is big, because some YouTube investigator would have definitely stumbled upon that village by now. Or worse, Mr. Beast would have shown up and put 100 boys and 100 girls in the village to compete. So to summarize, The Village as a movie is bad. The Village's twist, good. And Mr. Beast sells moldy cheese. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this, don't forget to check out my video on the movie Den of Thieves, which somehow got a sequel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below what movie you'd like to see me cover in the future.